Hey there, what's up, guys? Let's talk about something awesome. A Roth IRA. It's a retirement account where you put in money you've already paid taxes on, like from your paycheck. This money is invested wherever you put it, and it compounds with growth. A little bit of money, say $50 a month, can go very far. The best part? When you retire, you can take out all the money, including the profits, completely tax free. Picture it like planting a tiny seed today that grows into a huge tax free money tree down the road. That's a Roth IRA in a nutshell. So, why should you care? Here's a scoop: you're going to get tax free cash later. You pay the taxes now, but when you retire, you keep every penny of your gains. If taxes go up later or you're earning more, this is a big deal. It also is a tax free growth, meaning you don't pay taxes on interest. There's also no withdrawal rules. Unlike other accounts that force you to take money out at 72, a Roth IRA lets your money grow forever if you want, or you can pass it on to your family. You typically don't pay taxes when you pull it out, though. As of 2025, you can be 59 and a half years old to pull it out. And lastly, it's a safety net. You can also pull out what you put in, not the profits, anytime without penalties. I'll explain why you shouldn't later, but it's nice to have that option. Also, there's no age contribution limits, which is a good bonus. So, what to put in your Roth IRA? Index funds for every age. Inside your Roth IRA, you'll invest in index funds. These are like big baskets that hold tons of stocks or bonds, following a whole market, like the US or the world. They're easy, cheap, and perfect for regular folks like us. The benefit of these is that you have a higher chance of returns of your stocks. Instead of hand picking or stock picking, as one would say, you have a large group of stocks, and you profit off of the average growth of this combined with stocks. This is safer in general and following past trends, which, by the way, shouldn't be rule of law. Don't ever predict future outcomes based off of past events. But anyways, the S&P 500 grows approximately 7 to 9% annually, inflation included and adjusted for. Let's break it down by age with some popular picks. So, if you're young, which means your 20s or your 30s, you've got time on your side, so you can go big on growth. A good mix here might be 70% of your portfolio in US stocks, something like the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, which is VOO, or iShares Core S&P 500 ETF, which the ticker for that would be IVV. And lastly, SPDR S&P 500. This is from Schwab. Personally, I use FSKAX for my S&P 500 stock growth. This is the fidelity equivalent of the powerful Vanguard index funds like VOO and VSTAX. And after your 70% in US stocks, let's move on to international. You should have 30% in your international stocks. If you're young and your risk portfolio tolerance, I should say, allows for it. This covers companies outside of the US, like in Europe or Asia. Good picks include VXUS, which is Vanguard's international stocks, IXUS, which is iShares Core MSCI Total International Stock Index Fund, or the Schwab International Equity ETF, which is SCHF, which is affordable and broad. Personally, I use FZILX, which is FZILX. It's the fidelity equivalent of the major Vanguard International Index Fund, which is VTIAX. I like to say these names differently in my head. But in your 20s and 30s, 70% stocks, US, and then 30% international. And typically for me, again, this isn't financial advice. This is just what I do. 0% in bonds. I personally think I don't need these yet, and instead I focus on growing my money. Bonds have low interest rate, and depending on your risk tolerance as a young person, you shouldn't be sought after compared to equities, which is stocks, due to a lower interest rate / gains. What to do if you're in your middle age, like your 40s or your 50s? Let's add a little safety. A smart mix could be 60% in US stocks, 30% in international stocks, and 10% in bonds instead of 0. Bonds are like a cushion. They don't grow as fast, but they keep things steady. Try Vanguard Total Bond Market ETF, which is a BND. BND is the ticker, sorry. It is an ETF, exchange traded fund. I should have said that earlier. But it covers all kinds of bonds. And then also you have your iShares Core US Aggregate Bond ETF. The ticker for that is AGG. It's simple and safe. Another bonus of bonds is that they're nice because they can add tax breaks, not only just federally, but also state taxes, depending on what you pick. Do some research on your municipality and the bonds you can invest into for a tax break. Bonds are going to get their own video in the future. I'll explain more. Now, near retirement, when you're 60s and up, it's time to protect what you've built so far off of your aggressive equities. You might shift to 40% in US stocks, 20% in international stocks, and 40% in bonds. Bump up your BND and AGG to keep your savings secure. Think of it like driving. When you're young, you're flooring it with the stocks, and as you get older, you ease off of the gas and add brakes, aka bonds, to cruise safely to retirement. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, let's say investing on a tight budget. I don't have much to spare, no worries. Even small amounts add up. So in 2025, you can put up to, I believe, $6,500 or it's $7,000 a year. I want to say it's 7,000. I'm recording right now and I don't really want to Google it. I'm very confident it's $7,000, but you don't even need that much to start. Try $50 a month. It's less than a fancy dinner. Many apps or brokerages let you invest with no minimum if you set it to automatic. Some just no minimum at all. I use Fidelity personally. I'd recommend Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab. And honestly, if I could do it again, I might do Vanguard just because I really like Vanguard index funds, and I don't have to have a fee or anything like that if I want to use them with Fidelity. That's really getting into the weeds of stuff. Anyways, here's how your Roth IRA will grow with compound interest. I'll give you some examples. When your earnings start earning more earnings, is basically what compound interest means. The S&P 500 has averaged about 10% growth a year historically. However, inflation, which is rising prices, that eats about 3%. So your real growth is closer to about 7%, more on the conservative side. So for an example, $50 a month, if you put in $50 a month at 7% growth, like we just said, for 30 years, you put in $18,000 total for 30 years, after 30 years, but it grows to about $60,000. That's $42,000 extra from growth. You put in 18, you made 60,000. Awesome. Now, $100 a month, double to $100 a month, and after 30 years, you'd have around 120,000, all from the 36K you put in. So, real returns can vary. Some years are up and some are down, but starting early and sticking with it is a trick. Even $25 a month beats nothing. I would recommend you put in more, but a good simple start to someone with lower income, ideally, would be $200 a month, which is $2,400 yearly. Assuming you invest $200 a month into your Roth IRA at a guesstimated 7 to 9% return starting at age 25, would net you anywhere from $557,000 on the conservative side. On the aggressive side, $1,456,000. Pretty good for only $2,400 a year, right? So, this brings me into my next point, why you should leave it alone. Now, you can take out what you put in at any time, but don't. Here's why. Say you invest $5,000 when you're 25 into an S&P 500 index fund growing at 7%. By 65, it's worth about $38,000. If you pull it out at 35, you'd only get $10,000 out of your $5,000. So you would lose $28,000 in future growth. Plus, you can't just replace it without hitting your yearly limit. Let it sit and grow. So here's the tax magic. You pay taxes on what you put in now, like from your paycheck, but all the growth later is yours, tax-free. If $50 a month turns into $60,000, you don't owe taxes on that $42,000 profit. In a regular account, like Robinhood, Webull, anything like that buys stocks, you'd lose a big chunk of that to taxes. It's like getting a free pass to keep more of your money. Taxes, man, who likes taxes? Seriously. So, anyways, how your mix will change over time. Your investments should shift as you age. In your 20s and 30s, we went over this slightly, but I typically like to recommend for myself, when I say that I'm not a financial advisor, this is not financial advice, 70% US stocks, 30% international, and 0% bonds. 70-30-0. 3-fund portfolio. Full speed ahead. Now in your 40s and your 50s, I'd lean towards 60% US, 30% international, and 10% bonds. You're going to add a little bit of calm here. In your 60s, I'd go 40% US, 20% international, and 40% bonds. You're going to be playing it safe here. It's like gardening. Young plants need sun, aka the stalks, to grow tall, and mature ones need mulch, like bonds, to stay healthy. This brings me into Jack Bogle. Jack Bogle was a guy who had this very amazing idea. He started Vanguard, and he said to keep it simple. Don't try to pick winning stocks or pay big fees. Just buy the whole market with index funds. Index funds historically produce the most consistent returns every year, around 7 to 9% with inflation included. In a Roth IRA, this grows tax-free, and low fees mean more money stays in your pocket. So chill out and stay the course. Don't freak out if the market dips. It'll bounce back. Selling during a drop locks in losses, and don't check your account daily. It's like staring at paint dry. Instead, peak once a year, tweak if needed, and relax. The stock market has recovered from really bad crashes like the 2008 financial crisis and the Great Depression of the 1930s. It took time, but it has came back in dire situations, and it's continued to grow to this day. So don't freak out, don't pull out, even during bad economic times, which, statistically speaking, will happen approximately 2 to 5 times in your life. This is a hard thing for people to do. They let their emotions get the best of them when they see their portfolio is down 25 to 50%. Just remember, it will most likely recover, and to stay the course. Let me add that there is risk to every investment out there. It just depends on the risk tolerance you have to pick the right ones. So, to wrap this all up, a Roth IRA is your ticket to a tax-free retirement. Use funds like VOO, which is the S&P 500, and VXUS, which is international, adding BND, which is bonds, as you age. 3-fund portfolio. Even $50 a month can grow to $60,000 in 30 years at 7%. So I'd recommend you put in more than $50 a month though, ideally $200 to $300 if you're short on cash. Most ideally, you'd max it out annually. Regardless, start small if you must, stay consistent, and let time do the work. And one day, you'll thank your future self. Let's also not forget, besides a Roth IRA, you can also have a health savings account and a 401k to supplement your retirement and your future income. Eventually, you can live off of the dividends and just pull out a small percentage of your Roth IRA or your HSA and just let the rest grow with compounding interest. It's something to do with the 4% rule. You will have multiple streams of income coming through. A Roth IRA is just one of them. This is why investing while you're young is so important. Trust me, invest while you're young and your future self will thank you. I forgot to mention pensions as further retirement income. These are all going to be huge bonuses for you when you're older. Don't rely on just Social Security. It's typically not enough for the average person. So that about wraps up the video for today. Leave comments with suggestions or improvements for future videos or ideas we touched on in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and let me know in the comments below. How old were you when you started a Roth IRA, and how much did you put in? Do you think it's worth it to have one? Tell people your story. I'd love to hear it. Now, after all that, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.